Alright, let's start with background of study. Basically, our group are going to conduct a study regarding association between circadian rhythm and blue light exposure. First thing first, we need to understand what is actually circadian rhythm. Okay, circadian rhythm is actually refer to 24-hour internal clock in our brain that regulates cycle of alertness and sleepiness by responding to light changes in our environment. Which means regulation of sleep is actually processed by the homeostatic physiology of the circadian rhythm. Okay, sleep is essential for everyone's health and happiness, especially university students. Healthy sleep is vital for cognitive performance, mood, mental and so on. The National Sleep Foundation suggests that young adults around 18 to 25 years old should get 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. Nowadays, university students use modern gadgets on their daily life. Students usually use laptop, tablet and phone to finish their tasks or assignment. Okay, so the largest source of blue light is actually from sunlight. Other sources are including all gadgets that university students use.
Blue light exposure has been known to cause an effect on human vision, but it also can affect more than human vision, such as circadian rhythm and sleep-wake cycle. It has an effect by influencing body temperature. To get better circadian rhythm, having a good sleep-wake cycle is a must, and it can be achieved by having a desired core body temperature. The justification on performing this study is to stress that the blue light exposure can affect the core body temperature, which influences circadian rhythm and sleep-wake cycle. This study also determines the relationship between the intensity of blue light exposure to the core body temperature. Next, in the benefits of study context, when participants are exposed to blue light with different intensity in a short period of time, core body temperature will be measured by using a specific device. Through this study, people can know how the blue light exposure affected their circadian rhythm and sleep-wake cycle. In limitations of this study, it's only required male students because there will be no hormonal influence on core body temperature unlike females. There are also limitations on participants' background, age, lifestyle, and health status. These matters should be considered as it can also influence the outcome of the study.
The research questions are: is there any significant difference between core body temperature and intensity of blue light exposure? The hypothesis: the core body temperature is higher when there is higher intensity of blue light exposure. The objectives of the study are: first, to determine the association between blue light exposure and circadian rhythm. Second, to compare core body temperature between different intensity of blue light exposure.
Hi, my name is Fitria Nushazim Batipori and will be presenting the literature review of this topic. Different light come from the different wavelength. In the figure of the electromagnetic spectrum, the blue light function speed at the wavelength of 440 nanometer, which is one of the shortest wavelength from other color spectrum. One study stated that the shortest wavelength can cause an increased production in photon energy. Unlike other forms of light, the eyes cannot effectively filter the blue light that passes through the eye to the retina. Naturally, the main source of blue light comes from sunlight. However, many studies stated that light transmitter diodes or LED that are used in liquid crystal display and lighting fixtures can emit a significant amount of blue light. Besides, concern about the safety of these blue light have been raised when people keep themselves occupied with digital devices. According to the Department of Statistics Malaysia, the percentage of households with access to digital devices show an increase, including computer 88.3%, the internet 95.5%, mobile phone 99.6%, and television 99%. In addition to this, blue light at the high photon energy end of the visible spectrum poses a greater risk of harm than other visible light wavelengths. The light needs to be passed through the rods, cones, and intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cell IPRGCs of the eye. Too much exposure can lead to photochemical damage to the retina and retinal pigment epithelium. In a series of studies using animal models after the discovery of RPRGCs, it was shown that circadian rhythm and entrainment can occur by stimulation of the RPRGC alone by rods and cones or with all photoreceptors providing input in combination. A circadian rhythm is a biological cycle with a period of 24 hours. It allows synchronization of biological and behavior processes. A light-related circadian rhythm, for example, is sleeping at night and being awake during the day. In this process, periods and cytochrome genes are crucial as they code for proteins that build up in cell nucleus at night and lessen during the day. A group of researchers named Jeffrey C. Hall, Michael Rosbach, and Michael W. Young has done research by studying fruit flies which have a very similar genetic makeup to humans. The result then showed the genes produce a protein that builds up in cells overnight and breaks down during the day. It is known that short wavelength visible light has the strongest influence on circadian rhythm. The exposure of blue light can affect cortisol and melatonin secretion. Previous studies showed the secretion of this hormone increased during the night that causes them to be awake. Due to increases in melatonin, our core body temperature decreases as less heat is produced. Last but not least, it also can affect the sleep-wake cycle. Two studies found that participants who were exposed to short wavelength light such as blue light in the late evening between 9 to 11:30 p.m. had lower slow wave sleep and slow wave activity during the first sleep cycle.
This research used cross-sectional study design to compare core body temperature between different levels of intensity of blue light exposure. This method is suitable to determine the association between blue light exposure and circadian rhythm by evaluating core body temperature of participants. Cross-sectional study is chosen as study can be observed at one particular point in time, and also exposures and outcome can be measured at the same time. Study will be held for 4 days, which is participants will be isolated for 3 days to get a standardized circadian rhythm. An evaluation will be started on 4th day in an isolation hall in University Sultan Zainal Abidin, Uniza, Terengganu. This study includes 404 participants from male students of UNIZA. However, participants who have sleeping disorders, smokers, employed and taking any medications need to be excluded. All subjects will be provided written informed consent approved by University Human Ethical Approval of UNIZA for their participation in the study.
To determine the sample size, formula of single proportion can be used. As can be seen from the slide, it shows the sample size calculation to obtain the amount of participants for the study. 323 participants are needed for the study. However, if only 80% of response rate is estimated, the total participants needed for the study is 404. The selection of participants will be performed using a two-stage cluster sampling method. The first stage involves random selection of faculties in UNIZA. Then, for the second stage, participants will be chosen from random courses of each of the faculties that have been selected. Cluster sampling was suitable to be applied as there is limited time and resources to conduct this study. The participants will be randomized and allocated in 3 different groups with 3 different intensities of blue light exposure, which is low, medium, and high level. For the method of data collection, a group of researchers will collect the data. The participants will be isolated in an isolation hall 3 days before the experiment. A constant routine will be designed to remove the masking effects and to allow more accurate assessment of the human circadian rhythm of core body temperature on the day of data collection. By conducting this routine, it will minimize the effect of exogenous variables by controlling the environment, such as light intensity, temperature, humidity, and also provide similar meals to all participants at regular intervals. The participants will be required to follow and maintain regular bedtimes and wake times. The core body temperature of participants will be collected for a 24-hour period starting from 6 a.m. of the 4th day until 6 a.m. of the following day by using a wireless non-invasive heat flux-based thermometer, one on the chest of participants. The participants will be placed in a climate-controlled laboratory suite under low light conditions around 10 to 20 lux until 6 p.m. Then the blue light with different intensities, which is low, medium, and high level, will be exposed to different groups of participants from 6 p.m. to 12 a.m. of the next day. The changes of core body temperature of participants will be measured and recorded continuously for every 30 minutes. The core body temperature data collected by wireless non-invasive heat flux-based thermometer will be synchronized to its accompanying smartphone app and will be saved to the cloud of the monitoring device. Then, the graph of core body temperature against time will be plotted, and also the mean difference of core body temperature among groups exposed to different light intensities will be compared.
Hi, my name is Teo Mingla and my matrix number is 060396. Now I'm going to present about the variables under the study, measuring tools and also the study flowchart. First, the variable under the study including the independent variable and also the dependent variable. So the independent variable of our study is the intensity of blue light exposure, which include high, medium and low. Next, the dependent variable of our study is the core body temperature of participants, which will be measured in a 24-hour period. As for the measuring tools used in this study, the intensity of blue light is measured using the Center 337 MK Scientific Incorporation, Japan, while the core body temperature will be measured using the core Greentech AG, Grönland, Switzerland, which will be attached on the chest of the participant to measure the core body temperature. So this diagram shows the study flowchart of our proposal. The source population of our study will be the students of UNISA in campus Kong Badak, Kuala Terengganu. We also have the inclusion criteria and exclusion criteria for the participants of our study. The sample size of our study is determined by the formula of single proportion, and a total of 404 participants will be included in our study. The sampling method used for our study will be the two-stage cluster sampling method. So the data collected for our study will be according to our independent and dependent variable, and the data will be entered into the SSPS version 23.0. Then the data will be analyzed using independent t-test or Mann-Whitney test. After the parameter estimation, the test will be performed and the presentation, interpretation and conclusion of the study will be presented. Next, we will end our research proposal with the write-up of our result. Thank you.
There are two possible statistical analyses that will be carried out, which are independent t-test or Mann-Whitney test. Independent t-test is parametric test which will carry out when assumption is fulfilled. It is used to compare the mean of core body temperature between different level of intensity of blue light exposure. Meanwhile, Mann-Whitney test is performed when assumption is not fulfilled. It is used to compare the median of core body temperature between different level of intensity of blue light exposure.
Ethical issues have been stressed in performing this study. Before we conduct this study, we have secured the consent first from the participants. All the information details and privacy of participants are protected securely, and only researchers who are involved in this study can access their information. Besides, the participants have been adequately informed about the study details, such as the purpose of the study, method used, and potential risks of the study.
Expected result is the result that researchers expect to be achieved after successful completion of the project. There are two expected table results for this study, which is Table 1, independent t-test was applied. It shows comparison of mean core body temperature between different levels of intensity of blue light exposure. Result will be reported as mean with standard deviation, mean difference with 95% confidence interval, t-statistic with degree of freedom, and p-value. For Table 2, Mann-Whitney test was applied. It shows comparison of median core body temperature between different levels of intensity of blue light exposure. Result will be presented as median with interquartile, IQR, z-statistic, and p-value.
Okay, so this is our group Gantt chart, starting with selection of proposal topic on early November 2022 and submit proposal on 19 January 2023. Next, this is our milestone.